I'm going to walk now through the exhibition, Politics and Religion at the Midwest Museum of American Art. This is the day just before the closing of the exhibition, and we wanted to be able to document some of the statements by the living artists represented, and also the work as we see it installed in the gallery. In front of us is a wood carved and painted piece that actually moves by the rolling prairie artist Robert Hart, known internationally for his whirligigs. So we see this particular work done in 2013 represents the Secret Service being caught having a party with some call girls during President Obama's visit to Colombia. When you turn the handle or crank, all of the dancers seem to move and gyrate, and the CIA Secret Service men seem to drink and laugh jollily. As we see in the background, other works of the religious nature, works by Brother Carl Teet and the late Father Anthony Lauk, and again the Mexican folk artist A Shrine That Illuminates by Steve Lerma. As I move around the gallery today, we see again current works by Lisa Kasilovich from Women's Movement. We see works by Lori Russo again. And then as I move down, we shift to the 19th century and we see a promotional engraving that the GOP had created in 1866 to promote the idea that Ulysses S. Grant needed to be the candidate for presidency. So we see the president then to be with his family in their parlor, all of the polite amenities, the piano or perhaps harpsichord, and so forth. Grant went on to write the first book and be a first celebrity artist of the presidency, again in order to take care of his financial burden. The activist artist Shepard Fairey, seen again in a statement, fairly easy to recognize. And then we post and pan into the last gallery where we see works by William Shank, the late Roman Radecki, an early 50s statement about nuclear holocaust and the dreaded thought of atomic annihilation by Russia. Very strange and wonderful painting. We see Pixel Pete, or Mayor Pete Buttigieg, juxtaposed just below Ronnie Balthus's work called The Impossible Picasso by Ronnie Balthus, an artist from Elkhart, Indiana. She is posting the idea of who do we pick, and in a Picasso-like style of cubism, you see Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton represented. Pixel Pete by the Granger artist Ben Roseland. And so we move on down and we see both photographs of holy places, photographs that are derived from digital and manipulation. Here we see James Willie Faust of Indianapolis, Fossil Fuel Series, Life and Death. And we see chapels and churches by the Goshen photographer Robert Wellington. This is an interesting work commenting on pesticides by Lori Russo. It's called Herbicides on My Mind. And she states that pesticides just don't affect the nervous system of the pests they are meant to kill. They affect beneficial insects, birds and mammals, as well as our entire ecosystem. I move on down the line here and we see works by the folk artist Donald Sizemore of Pineville, Kentucky. That's a piece called Rapture of the Saints, painted in a naive style much akin to that of Grandma Moses or Elizabeth Layton. We see the fiber piece, The Triangle Fire, Flightless Birds 1 by South Bend artist Helen Giglio. This represents the 1911 horrifying event of garment workers, mostly young immigrant women and girls, plunging to their death from the burning upper floors of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. So she commemorates this and reminds us that this led to laws, both to enact child labor laws and for safety on the job. Helen Giglio. We see another work by Zach Tate, Crane, Putin, and Yellow Cake. Yellow cake being the scientific slang term for the material that creates nuclear bombs. And again, another Shepard Fairey work, The Black Hills Are Not for Sale. We see just to the left of that a work called Halliburton, War is Pay Dirt, from the Fossil Fuel series by James Willie Faust. And again, an activist artist from the Native American community, Jean Quick to C. Smith, creates one of her works defining the celebration of 40,000 years of American art. In other words, that Native artists were here creating signs and symbols on rock walls and in pottery long before white culture invaded what would become American soil. And this work particularly represents not just an Easter-like bunny, but the actual artifact of the trickster rabbit found in petroglyphs in the Southwest. She has created many representations of these symbols in her work. Jean Quick to C. Smith. We pan around and we see a work by Kathy Ziente, Goshen-based artist, representing her intention to exercise social justice based on her experience seeing after the Rodney King episode of the 20th century. And she writes about this work, stating that in this piece came into existence after I acquired these salt shakers and the White Castle hamburger, all being symbolic, and seeing that slavery unfortunately had been a national institution. A visit she made to the Kingsley plantation proved to her, with some actual through minor insight into the condition of slavery and the horrific acts of transporting human chattel across the Atlantic Ocean. The repercussions of our country's long past history of slavery seem to flare up every 10 years or so, and certainly is current in this day and age. So this piece, which was created in 2015, represents her response and reaction to the symbols of white culture and black culture. Randy Horst is a professor at Goshen College who creates mixed media ensembles. This is a triptych representing the Old Testament narrative of Job. The actual individual model is the artist's father, and he uses various materials to bring these age-old stories into the 21st century. They are mixed media by Randy Horst. And finally, we're going to end with this work by Justin Rosshank, a unique piece working with a photographer from New York. He finds that the Black Lives Matter movement are engaged on the surfaces of his ceramic ware as an actual sort of set with a bowl and these 7 works, cylindrical works representing images. These are images that are taken and created into decals and then applied to the ceramic work of Justin Rosshank.